more and more people are taking the stand in the Erin Patterson, aka Mushroom Luncheon and Nightmare from you know what trial down under. And we're going to talk about some of the highlights in that first week in today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey, hey.
Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Psh, it ain't no sofa, psh, but it's a bed. Psh, this is a Paul. And if you're new to the channel, well guess what? My name is Paul. If you're not new to the channel, my name's still, it's Paul. It's Paul, okay? I'm just being, it's Paul, okay? Only thing different right up in here is this new little beard makeup dye job I did. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're like, who's that young fellow? I don't know who that is. Was this the same channel? What's going on? Anyways, also, please give me feedback if you don't mind. How is the volume? Do you like the new microphone situation? All that being said, just so you know, the boys are over here and we're gonna see how long we can get through the video. They are currently arguing over a little stick that they have found and they do want to take one another's lives over this. So they're wanting to make true crime doggy headlines over this. And I'm just being dramatic, but they are over there, so they might be making appearances throughout and whatnot. Now, that being said, what we're gonna do is some of this video is gonna be like a little bit of a repeat because we're gonna basically recap the first week. Okay, and the first week is in the trial of Erin Patterson. Like I said, we went and did like a read through on the podcast channel and I'm kind of doing it more like as it comes out over there. So this is, you know, a little bit of old news, if you will, at this point. So that being said, keep in mind the 60-second overview of where we're at, how we arrived at this video. Erin Patterson, Australia, serves family members beef Wellington laced with death cap mushrooms. One survives. He will take the stand. Yes, he will speak out. And she has been accused of doing this intentionally. That's it. So let's just go ahead and jump in. Now, first of all, let's talk about one of the major bombshells that came out. Before we even say that, literally this case, when it's like, you know, we were getting the information coming from the people in the courtroom, the reporters, whatever, you know, I'm talking, this is one of the like most coming in hot, coming in at 100 level 10 trials I have ever seen. Okay. Now, one of the first huge things that we're just like, what over was the judge making an announcement. And now part of that announcement was about some of the charges that Erin was facing. And I'm gonna go ahead and quote this. Prosecutors have dropped the 3 charges that Erin Patterson had attempted to murder her husband, whom she had been separated from since 2015. You should remove any consideration of these previous charges when rendering your verdict in this case. Now, this was obviously to the jury. And again, remember, her husband, Simon, estranged husband, they're still married. He, I mean, in my opinion, she's attempted to kill him several times, this being one of those times, but luckily he did not go to the dinner. Now, here's the one thing on that. So imagine you're the jury and you sit down and the judge is like, okay, hey there, everybody, I want to thank y'all for coming in, for doing your civic duty. Okay, by the way, juror number 3, those slides you're wearing, are those salmon libbies? They are cute. Okay, I'm glad someone's bringing those back. But anyways, look, okay, I just want to tell y'all this. We're not talking about those 3 times she tried to kill her husband. We're not going to consider that no more. Pretend that didn't happen. Pretend we didn't hear about it. Okay, thank you. Well, you already know you're gonna be over here like, hey. Sure, Jan, we won't think about that statement anymore. You know, so I mean, I'm just kind of like, yeah, we're all human at the end of the day. It's like, how do you circumvent that? Now, I get, obviously, I'm being dramatic. You know, the jurors are supposed to sit there and weigh this out and be like, well, how do we look at this when you can't do that? But again, people are people, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and quote what the judge said to kind of like wrap up what he talked about with this. And he said, you should dismiss any feelings of sympathy or prejudice you may have in relation to Erin Patterson. You must dispassionately weigh the evidence. Use your head, not your heart. Now that is, you know, honestly the way it's supposed to go. And keep in mind that Australian jurors are subject to basically the same guidelines as that of the American jurors that you're going to see. You know, over here as well as over there, it's like if you hear something on the news, turn the channel. If you see something about the case, look away. Don't talk to anybody about the trial, not even each other. Like, you know, keep it on lockdown, right? Now, obviously with a case like this case has garnered an international attention, right? I mean, we're over here, I'm talking about it, right? As well as Australia. Now, it's a little bit different over there because the court systems, I don't want to say aren't as transparent, but it's more on lockdown over there than it is here, right? Now, even over there, from what I've heard from y'all who live there, as well as just the media in general, where they're just like, look, this is like, Australia's never seen something like this before, right? This is just huge. It's just everywhere. Now, one of the big sources for this is journalist Christian Silva of the Mushroom Daily. These are people you're going to want to check out. They get a lot of those questions like, what does she look like? What was she wearing? What's the vibe, okay? Now, Silva said Erin was seated in the dock. She said silently listened to all of the proceedings. Erin was dressed in a striped pink and white button-up shirt. Jury instructions, she appeared pretty calm while listening intently. So it's like little things like that from these journalists, and I quoted her on that I love learning about those little nooks and crannies of like, what's the vibe? They kind of put you in the courtroom. Okay, so let's do an overview of trial proceedings, day one opening statements. So the prosecution tells the jurors that Erin Patterson not only admitted to lying to authorities about 4G mushrooms, but also between March and May of 2023, Erin joined a Facebook group in which she wrote that she had started dehydrating mushrooms, and she shared a picture of the dehydrator, right? Now, Erin went on to say that she had been blitzing mushrooms into powder and hiding them in everything, including brownies made for her children. Now, I know a lot of us are like, okay, how did this luncheon come to be in the first place? Well, okay. They opened all of this, and again, we've gone over this before, but we're just going to redo it here. So 2 weeks prior to this luncheon, she invites these people over, right? And she's talking about like, oh, look, I've got some medical news. This is not really good. I need to share. I need to, talk to y'all about this. I need to break it down for you. And also like, I want to tell the kids, so that's what I want you to help me with. But also I don't want the kids there. Now, remember how I said her estranged husband Simon, she had tried to take his life? Well, he was included in on this guest list. He wasn't living there with her at the time. And he originally said he was going to attend, but then like the evening before, he was like, never, I don't want to do that, right? Now we'll come back to that when we talk about his testimony. Now remember, the guests that she being Erin Patterson, invites over are Simon's parents, the Pattersons, and the Wilkinsons, who's Simon's aunt and uncle. So, they apparently show up to the house. Erin's talking about like, hey, y'all, come on in now. Come on in. Make yourselves at home, okay? Let me go show you all my stuff, all my things. I'm pretty fancy. Okay, so she's like doing the whole little, cordial whatever, right? So, dinner time comes and whatnot. Now, I believe the guests had brought the desserts over themselves, like a cake and a fruit platter or whatever. So Erin serves up these beef Wellingtons. Okay, so remember we talked about hers was on like this orange plate or something like that, and everybody else's was like on these gray plates. So like hers was completely different. It was like obvious. Now, this is something that Heather Wilkinson would later mention to Simon when, they were talking or whatever, and she made this comment like, Erin had a shortage of crockery, and, asked him about it or whatnot. So it was enough to stick out to her. Now, Patterson eventually tells them that she has cancer. That's what this whole little dinner luncheon thing's for, right? So they're sitting down there talking. She's like, look, y'all, I just want to tell you, I've got the cancer of the elbow. And that's when, she's like, how do I tell the kids and whatnot? And they're all like, you know what, girl, we're gonna pray for you. We're sending thoughts and prayers to your elbow, and just going over all this stuff. So by the following morning, 4 of the guests are in the hospital, right? So Erin seeks medical attention, like full 24 hours later, she's talking about, I have a stomach ache. Now, once they realize, and she goes to the doctors, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's part of this group, they start kind of going in and being like, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to test the kids, we need to do this. So you already know how this goes. If you've been following me, we already talked about it, but we're going to keep talking about it here. Now, also keep in mind that the kids were not at the house. Remember, they were at the movies. They had like a little friend with them. They went to the movies. So this is how Erin created that scenario, okay? Erin claims that the kids don't like the mushrooms, okay? She would also claim that the kids ate the leftovers, but because they didn't like the mushrooms, she scraped them off. Now, here's the thing. I personally think this. Well, first of all, she made 2 beef Wellingtons. So I think that she served them the secondary one, which is what she ate out of. So, because if you drastically poisoned the food like that, and then you didn't want the kids to get it, like, you're not going to just scrape the mushrooms off. You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? So she very well could have made 2 batches and then scraped them off like a non-poisonous batch. I don't know, okay? But it just seems like what the doctors would tell her too, which is like, girl, when she's, she's acting like this is not a big deal. She's like, I don't want to worry the kids, okay? I don't want to worry the kids. The doctors are like, and the nurses are like, they can be scared and dead or they can be alive, right? But they got to come here. And the very thing too, they're like, like, well, girl, like the mushroom stuff could have seeped into the meat. Like, they're not in the clear. Well, of course, Erin knows they are because she knows she didn't poison them. Anyways, let's keep going. Erin and the kids and whatnot, they're under observation. There's really no signs that the kids were sick, that she was sick, anything of that nature. Then they also talk about, the contradicting stories about where Erin got the fatal fungi. So according to the Mushroom Daily, this is what they recited from the court. And there was 2 sources of mushrooms offered up as the initial explanation. So remember, Erin said that at first they came from Woolworths, and then she also said that some came from some unnamed Asian grocer in Oakley, but she couldn't say like who the grocer was. Okay, now the prosecution mentioned these 2 locations near her home, Locke and Altram. They selected them because of a website called iNaturalist. Now this is where like science and nature enthusiasts and whatnot, they'll document their various findings of things that they find. And apparently Erin knew this and was on this website. Now you can see from this picture I'm putting up here, there's like countless locations on this thing of like sightings and this, that, and the other, okay? Now, like I said, the prosecution will say that Erin went to these areas shortly after posts similar to these pictures that we're gonna have up here went up, which strongly suggests, okay, that she went to pick the death cap mushrooms, right? I mean, just put 2 and 2 together. Now, for Erin's defense, it's very short, it's very sweet. They will admit, you know what, yep, she lied about the cancer, you know what, and they're like, also keep in mind that with the prosecutor up here, given this big in-depth opening and whatnot, that's not evidence. That's normally how that goes. They're really long. So this should not be swaying you to think like, oh gosh, this is like, a really deep and chilled story, and this is all the evidence. Like, nope, it's not fact. Let's just get it straight. Now, as far as like cancer stuff goes, it turns out she didn't have that cancer on her elbow. She did not have ovarian cancer, and she had also done a cervical cancer swab test or whatever. That was negative. There was some like cancer registry down under, or however you want to say it. They didn't have any records of her having cancer. So this is proving more and more to just be another one of her lies, okay? Now, according to some of these media resources that I named off, they made it sound like, when the defense was going up and whatnot, that she showed a little bit more emotion. And they said that, she appeared to be fighting back tears when Mr. Mandy, that's her lawyer, conceded that certain things that she had done and had not done. So, I do get this vibe that Erin lives in the world of I'm a victim and that's her currency. And I might do another video because I did these a long time ago when this first came out, of looking at her police interviews and whatnot, or media interviews, but I almost want to revisit them knowing what we know now and seeing like, yes, she's getting caught up in like massive lies, right? Because it'll be interesting to look at it with that new like facts in mind, okay? Not just like opinions or whatever, sofa opinions. Because to me, she's somebody who, like I said, her currency is victimhood. I question from time to time some of the stuff. Does she genuinely feel bad and regretful about her actions, or that she just got caught? Who knows? But I do know one thing about her actions. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Please hold while I sip it from the damn cuppet. Okay. Good to the last drop. So now there's some of that like just overview day 1, whatever. Let's start talking about day 2. Now, the reporting that came from inside the courtroom on that day was suggesting that like there was definitely like this tense atmosphere. You can cut it with a knife kind of a thing, right? And it would remain that way for most of the day. Now, Erin's there in the dock or wherever she said, pretty composed, taking everything very seriously, listening very closely. Now, some of those proceedings from day 2, Simon Patterson gets up there. Now, Simon Patterson is her estranged husband, that like one of the star witnesses, okay? I'm going to quote one of the reporters who said that he had, meaning Simon, had an air of confidence when he walked into the courtroom and took a seat in the witness box. But when he was talking about his dying father suffering in the hospital, he was really emotional. I think he was pretty close to tears. He was describing how his father was suffering and struggling even just to talk because he was in so much pain. End quote. Now, I've said this as we've gone over this multiple times and whatnot. I'll say it again. I can only imagine the horrific death that these people suffered. And so like this brings it all home. Like Simon's talking about watching his father die a horrifying, miserable death, right? This was a horrible way to go and a horrible monstrous act to do to others. Now back to Simon and Erin. So they get married like around 2007, something like that. And the relationship basically began to decline around 2015. Simon stated that they remained on friendly terms, but then things go downhill like around 2019 and they began arguing about money. Now there is one particular trigger point, we talked about this in the live chat, where Simon basically put on his tax return that he was separated, and that has some sort of tax implication for Erin, and she was not happy about that, right? There becomes this like instant tension between the two of them. And then basically there was also tension when Erin would change the kids' schooling without telling Simon. That was like a bookmark, let's say, that event of the taxing where things start to go, wow, okay. Now the jury also heard a more in-depth account of the text exchange when he declined the lunch invitation. Now the Mushroom Daily stated these were shown to the court intended as evidence, and I'm going to read through the text right here. So Simon says, I feel too uncomfortable about coming to the lunch with you, Mom, Dad, Heather, and Ian tomorrow, but I'm happy to talk about your health and the implications of that at another time if you'd like to discuss on the phone. Just let me know. Erin says, that's really disappointing. I've spent many hours this week preparing lunch for tomorrow, which has been exhausting in light of the issues I'm facing, and spent a small fortune on tenderloin to make beef Wellingtons, because I wanted it to be a special meal. I wanted it to be a very, very special meal, as I may not be able to host lunch like this again for some time. It's important to me that you're all there tomorrow and that I can have the conversations that I need to have. I hope you'll change your minds. Your parents and Heather and Ian are coming at 12:30. I hope to see you there. And Simon didn't reply to that. You know, and I'm being dramatic reading the eyes, but look at how many I there was, right? I mean, that was like a huge major thing for me. Now, when Simon was asked if Erin loved her children, he said, yeah, she was a loving mother. She was a devoted mother most of the time. And he said that I believe she took the role seriously. She was keen, supportive of them to be in different activities and help them with their homework. Now, when Colin Mandy, again, that's her defense, asked whether Erin Patterson loved Don and Gail Patterson, he replied, she seemed to, and I'm quoting him here, she seemed to, yeah. She got on particularly well with Dad. They shared a love of knowledge in the world, and I think she liked his gentle nature. Mom and Dad were really active in maintaining a good relationship with Erin. I think it was mutual. It's not unusual for Erin to visit them even when I was not present. Now, the cross-examination covered a lot of key areas that kind of gave us a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of a hint, whatever you want to call it, into the direction that maybe the defense is eventually kind of taking this argument. And there's a lot of focus on Erin's relationship with her extended family of over like 25 years, right? Now, they cited this example of her generosity and said this, and I'm going to quote it here. Erin had received quite a large inheritance, $2 million from her grandmother, and then later on her mother, that she used to give out interest-free loans to the Patterson family, including Simon and his siblings, to buy their own homes. Now, her defense, Mr. Mandy, he reminded Simon about some kind of like backyard experiment that his father had undertaken with his grandson just weeks before this luncheon took place, okay? And this is like where the two of them tried to like unsuccessfully build a rocket-powered car or something like that. Now, the journalists that I was reading through, they indicated this story got a few smiles in the courtroom, even from Simon himself, who replied, well, yes, that is something that my dad would do. He loved rockets. He also noted that this even elicited a smile from Erin. It was a very rare moment of warmth in what is such a serious and horrific case, end quote. So it totally looks like they're definitely trying to weave this narrative that Erin loved these people. You know, she was like, you know, why would she do this? She wouldn't want to do this because she's maintaining that this is an accident. This was not intentional, right? That it was a family tragedy, okay? Like literally these keywords are also present, and that she didn't have like any intention of hurting these people. Now, at first I was like, oh, maybe she just wanted to make them sick. I go back and forth. At this stage in the game, after what I've seen, I'm like, no, I think she wanted to kill them. At first I thought she wanted to like make people sick and be some kind of like dark angel or whatever you call, angel of death, whatever you call that. I think she was trying to kill people at this point. Like, it's Why else would you do what she did? Okay, so let's go on to trial proceedings day 3. This is where Simon, he continues on, right? So he was on the stand for a while. So they would continue on. They showed some video footage. So that car rocket scene we talked about, they would show some video footage from that. Now, one of the reporters for the Mushroom Daily, who was in the courtroom, said, and I'm going to quote him actually, they said the court was shown this quite wholesome video of Don Patterson and his grandson in a driveway with a small red matchbox-sized car on the ground with smoke billowing out the back. But the car's not moving. It was an obvious bonding session for the two of them where they've tried to concoct some kind of rocket-powered car, and a voice can be heard in the background yelling out, "It's working, but it's not going anywhere." And that voice was from Simon's mother, Gail Patterson. Simon, from the witness box, started to tear up again, but he was also smiling, reminiscing on what was a nice family moment. Another reporter said that Erin looked away from the video and looked toward the wall. Bringing this up again for the second day is an attempt by the defense barrister to establish that Erin Patterson had a close relationship with her in-laws, and by extension, they had a strong relationship with their grandkids. So an end quote on that was from, again, a reporter from the Daily Mushroom. I keep wanting to say the Mushroom Daily. The Daily Mushroom is mushrooms and it's on the Daily. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about that cancer diagnosis. So Simon commented that he first learned about that from his father, who was dying in the hospital, okay? And he was like, he was so ill, major excruciating pain, and could barely talk, but that is one thing that he remembered and felt he needed to communicate to Simon. So then let's talk about what was Miss Erin doing right in the immediate aftermath of the lethal lunchroom, okay? Now, Simon's second day of testimony revealed a number of pretty interesting points. So let's just go over those real quick. So number one, Erin pushed back against the idea of bringing her kids to the hospital, which the doctors were like, obviously totally recommended after learning that the kids had allegedly ate the leftovers, right? And they were like, okay, are you crazy? We need to get the kids in here. She's, pushing back on that. Now, the prosecution said that the doctors recalled that she became emotional when they asked to have the kids checked out. And she kept saying like, oh, they don't have symptoms. They're good. I don't want to take them out of school. I don't want to worry them. I don't want to do this, all this crazy stuff. And that's when like one of those, famous lines from this case or whatever was when the nurse was like, they can be scared and alive or dead, okay? Now, of course, once the kids were finally brought into the hospital, they stay overnight and they're found to be healthy. Now, number two, Erin Patterson was at the Leongatha Hospital. Medical experts were concerned for her welfare, thinking that she too had ingested, the mushrooms as well. Obviously, everybody else did, and they're dropping dead basically, right? So they thought that she would be better cared for in this Melbourne hospital or whatever. It's a larger hospital, whole 9 yards, right? So Erin starts to text Simon saying, they're arguing with me now, saying that I might have to go to a different hospital. The doctor's not listening to me and he's being a bit mean about it. So here's the thing, they're trying to save her life. They're saying people are dropping, this is happening, that's happening, and she's getting petty. This is absolutely completely abnormal, right? This is red flag central. Now, 3, when she's at the hospital, she kept talking about, well, I need to go. Like, I'm good. Let's go. And Simon would say she has a history of doing that, like leaving the hospital against medical advice, basically. So number 4, so some of the people reporting from the courtroom had said that her defense basically seemed kind of like ticked off when Simon Patterson said, and I'm going to quote him, I was intrigued by the fact that Erin didn't actually ask about the welfare of the other lunch guests. We didn't have a conversation, I think, at any time about how they were doing. So, and yeah, that's completely weird, right? Now, number 5, they would try to basically, and by they, I mean the defense and whatnot, to make him, not credible or whatever. They would show these really contentious text exchanges between the couple, Simon and Erin, about finances, things of this nature, right? But obviously it didn't work. He got on the stand. You see why they didn't want him on the stand, okay? Like, it's not a good look for her. Okay, so let's talk about some closing thoughts on that and whatnot. So again, at this point in time, I'm changing my opinion of, oh, she was just trying to make him sick and put herself in the middle. I think this was retaliation. I think she wanted to kill them. I'm not sure on what capacity. I'm not sure if she thought, well, they'll just get really sick and I'll get even with them. Clearly, we know she meant for Simon to be there. Clearly, we know she didn't want the kids there. So above all, whether she wanted to make them sick or kill them or whatever, she definitely put a lot of thought into planning this. However, I'm not going to give her a lot of credit because literally, y'all, the more we look into this and read into it, the level of stupidity is insane. Okay? Like, pretend that Walmart sold death cap mushrooms on aisle 4, but to get them, you had to hand your ID over and go on video saying you're buying them. Okay? This is the equivalent of her going and doing that and then taking those and then putting those mushrooms in the thing. Like, she got caught red-handed along the way. Now, her story started off good, right? She started off like, okay, I'm going to get the kids over here. I'm going to be talking about some cancer. Oh, I know, I'll get some death caps. I'll do this and blah, 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 blah. But that's where that ends. Another talk herself into prison. Seeing this now and seeing how intentional, how pre-planned, how plotted this was, and then hearing the evidence of the horrifying deaths that these people suffered. Oh, and then I personally think she totally tried to kill her husband before, right? Who knows who else? Who knows what skeletons? Again, I'll say it 100 times. I'm talking Annie Wilkes. I'm talking Misery. I'm talking this is the real life version of it. There's no telling how many bodies she has to her name, like in any capacity, right? You just never know. If she walked out scot-free today, my opinion is she is a pathological liar, okay? So, period, end of story. So that's it. If you're still watching, well, I do appreciate it. I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Is it intentional or not? And I know that word, right? But thank you for watching. Thank you for being in the comments. While you're in the comments, if you could please drop some little sofas off for myself, Rosco in spirit, Bo. Well, you know what? Very rarely, but Bo's right here. I don't know if he's in the shot, but he's right here. Bo, you want to say hey? He's sleeping. But for Bo and Luke, who's sitting here staring at me ready to play, and also most importantly, the Sofa Squad. So we'll all have a place to sit, talk about Erin, her mushrooms, all these crazy cases we do talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we meander, I said meander, we're not saying that anymore. That's Steven Stern's word. Until we get there, well, should we use that too? Because that sounds real Lori Daybell. I don't know. Till we all hang out in the damn sofa in the comment sections. I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.